Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. It is Saturday, August the 26th of 2017. Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here today in KMED. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. We're coming on almost 400 shows, and all that time, Joe, that's a lot of yapping about real estate in Southern Oregon, isn't it? So many topics. Boy,
it
goodness.
has been really educational, especially for us. You know, we've got a road herd on most all of those shows, you and I, and have some great guests as well today.
And we do want to just kind of give a quick shout out to the firefighters who are working around us. I know that is hard work, and I hope they're getting an upper hand on them and get the smoke out of here. And because it's been really bad. A lot of people are really surprising how many people suffer with that. So we wish the firefighters good luck.
Those blazes in the Kalmiopsis are long, hard, and stubborn, and could be some tough weeks ahead.
And like that what was that big fire?
Silver and the Biscuit fires are the two, and this one could
like that.
This one could be every bit their equal.
Yeah. Anyway, Alice Lima's here with us today, and Steph Jordan, both real estate brokers with John L. Scott. Alice has been here before.
On a brighter note.
On a brighter note than that. Well, first of all, Alice, nice to see you again.
Nice to be back.
What have you been up to?
We've had a really interesting summer. We still have a lot of buyers out there, and in some cases, not enough houses to sell. But we're also really struggling with rising interest rates and rising prices and changing markets.
Alice has been telling me that she thinks that the market is changing. That it's right now. We've been telling everybody it's been a seller's market, for quite some time now. So you're thinking maybe we're going to have a little bit of change.
I'm just watching a few things happen. Eagle Point Golf Course, some of the prices are going down pretty fast, and it's not been as strong as it was last year. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal experience. We're also watching a lot in Ashland. Ashland's usually a very stable market, a very strong market, and we're seeing a lot of big price reductions happening.
Which may tell me that things are overpriced.
Yeah, I was going to say,
start out of that.
I think we've had a little bit of a sense that at some point it's got to kind of level out.
Yeah. We could be at the crescendo.
Yeah. Well, Steph Jordan has joined us also, and Steph's been a broker for several years, and before that you were involved in a lot of peripheral real estate stuff, weren't you?
Yes, AmeriTitle and real estate development.
Yeah, and so what possessed you to become a broker then, Steph? Just out of curiosity?
It was just time. My kids were old enough where it was time for me to get out.
Yeah, get out of it and do this. And so you enjoy that? You enjoy it pretty good?
Very much,
yeah,
yes.
It's an interesting business. It's so funny because so many of us had another career somewhere along the way before we actually came into being real estate brokers. And I'm like you, I've enjoyed it a lot more than I think I ever thought I was going to. So it's been a lot of fun.
So unpredictable. Yeah. You never know what your day is going to be.
So tell us what Alice was saying about buyers and sellers right now. What are you seeing out there as well?
I'm seeing very hopeful sellers hoping to get prices that are not quite justified. Unrealistic. Yeah.
So sellers are saying now, I want this much.
Yeah, because they've heard so many times over and over that it's such a seller's market. They think they can just name the price.
Name the price.
Yeah.
And what is happening with that, ladies? I mean, when that happens, the house is going to sit there, right? Because generally, the statistics show the average days in the market right around 34 days, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
In some neighborhoods, less. If you don't have an offer in your first weekend or two in some of the really fast-paced East Medford, parts of Ashland, parts of Central Point, then something's really wrong. So if you're still on the market in 3-4 months,
it's
probably price.
It's the price.
And or the condition.
The price or condition of the house, yes. Mm-hmm. And both of those. All those happen. I think one of the different people have different issues, and when they go in to look at them individually. But yeah, this seems to be going along. And where are the buyers coming from that you ladies are seeing? We hear all sorts of, we see all sorts of people have different things. Tell me what you're seeing.
All over. I've been lucky enough to work with first-time home buyers, which I really love, and they've been local people.
Local first-time buyers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know Alice gets people from out of town.
I have a big mix. I've got people from Wyoming that we just got into escrow 10 minutes ago. Very, very exciting. And I have a lot of locals, but my local people are really struggling because even in just 6 months, the prices have changed, the interest rates have changed, and they cannot buy what they could have purchased in February.
Well, that's true, sure.
And should have.
Because remember, prices went up by about 1% a month, right? That's what they're going up. The value of them going
revenue.
not?
And then if the interest rates are fluctuating, depending on when you lock in your rate, you may or may not be able to purchase that home that you were qualified for.
And I wonder, well, that's not going to slow down at any time, is it?
No, I think, isn't the Federal Reserve Bank meeting again this week?
Well, if they do, but as we talked about on the show, that if interest rates go up, the prices that we're getting around here, if things are really going to slow down, I would assume in a big hurry, right? You think
I
that's
would think
true?
so.
Hey, interest rates have not gone up, though, that much, though. I mean, remember, when they first went up, didn't we all, people were, in our show here, they're going to go up, they're going to go up, it's going to do all these things, and they really haven't gone up very much.
No.
I think it really affects the people that are right on the borderline of their approval.
Purchase
Yeah,
power.
just barely
That's right.
able to pull it off.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. What if a person? Well, I think one of the problems we're having locally is that people who want to move. Remember, 40% of the sales in our county are out of town people moving here, and 60% are local people moving up or down. The problem seems to be is that people who want to move within our own community cannot find places to go. And I'm talking a lot of seniors, especially seniors. Where are they going to go from their homes? It's a real problem. We've seen that just this
Yeah,
week.
I have one right now. He's all cash. He sold his house already, trying to relocate out of state to a less expensive area. Could not secure housing there, and so has come back. And he has no choices. It's very, very difficult. And he's all cash. And he's an older guy. So if anybody has something out there, Oldies Medford.
And the other question in terms of older buyers is where do they go? In your place, buying a house,
He's decided, to do a little tiny cottage,
a tiny home.
a tiny home.
That
Yeah, a
make-
little tiny cottage.
That makes sense
Which
for a lot
is
of people.
rare. That's rare. It's rare to find.
Where to find what? A tiny
A
home.
tiny home, yeah, a tiny home that's not need of repair.
Yeah, well, we've had guys in here building them now, and so we're trying to get them onto as ADU units, as additional dwelling units onto properties easier than what we're getting right now, because of the demand for additional units on properties is huge, and you get a higher price for them.
And those are micro tiny homes, the 400
The 400 square footers.
Yeah,
Yeah, but 400.
these are cottages. He's looking for a little cottage.
Right now he's not as picky as he
Wow.
was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
where are you going to go, and what are you going to do?
Right, and if you're an
Where's-
older person, you don't really need that much space.
Yeah.
Well, how do you want to take care of it?
Right, not that I'm saying older people need less
Having
space.
just had a birthday, yeah.
Right, you don't need any space.
no, less space.
Well, I really think that people are going to have to deal with this because their senior population has no place to go. And right now, their options are extremely limited. Try to go find an opening in a manufactured home park for a senior if they want to go. They're not out there. Try to find a senior place, in a small home, and the homes that are out there are not very good. They don't want to move into them.
We've been ready, yeah.
So what's left? You can go to independent living places. Some people can afford them and some people can't. Then what's there? An apartment? Or what happens to these people who have had their home and they're ready to sell their home, but there's no place to go? It's a big problem. It's a big mess.
Yeah, and I'm depressed now. Thanks.
I know. I don't know what you're going to do.
Well, and I think some of this could be eased by our municipalities, making it less expensive and less complicated to start dividing some of our larger residential lots. If you have a half-acre lot and there's room for another house, and you could divide that at a much lower cost and a lot less red tape, that would create more opportunity for housing.
Yes, and so allowing easier rules for additional dwelling units to go on the same property instead of having to split them all the time.
And it is also...
Agents, everybody wants to split their properties, but buyers don't really want to do that. They're going to give away all your property, right?
It's also infill already inside the urban growth boundary where we could use additional housing already. And you bring up a good point, Pete. Where are these people going to go? That's oftentimes kind of the dynamic of the market that forces the market to meet that need or to address that issue. So it'll be interesting to see what are the options that are going to come on the horizon now.
Yeah.
Aging in place is one of them, but again,
There's one or two aging in place homes built a year. That's not going to really
not
do
a lot
much.
of inventory is the problem.
Yeah. So what do we have? It's
It'll be
amazing.
interesting
Okay.
to see how that shakes out.
I'm going to stump you three today. Okay, I got a
he
question
likes to
for
do
you.
this.
Here's the thing now. This was an NAR survey. We talk about what are buyers looking for in properties, right? We always talk about that. What are the top 4 things that buyers today are looking for when they're out buying a property? And one of the things that we all know is that buyers today are so sophisticated. They've been out there looking and searching, and they may even know what they want, right? So what is the top number one thing that buyers are looking for today in properties? You guys know?
Master bedroom on the main level.
Wrong. Okay. It's okay. Joe, wrong. See, I knew this was going to happen. Did you? Alice and I were at the meeting and got this. Okay.
So I won't.
Okay. Well, the number one thing people are looking for today is landscaping. The types of landscaping that are out there. Number 2 is new roofs, the roof condition. The third one are hardwood floors. And the
Okay,
fourth
yes.
one is patios and decks.
I agree with the hardwood floors.
I'm with the last two.
None of my people notice the roof until the inspection tells them to notice the roof.
Absolutely, that's true. Patios, outside living, patios and decks. Those are big
Those are big
things.
because that's extra living space in a climate like ours.
And landscaping is a big thing. You know, it can be dry, but as long as it's nice, and you can do those things. I would have said too, master on the main level, or the kitchen, or the bathroom. And it seems like those things can be rectified more so than maybe these things here. I don't know what that would mean, right? Yeah.
And most of my buyers want an open floor plan. And in some of the more affordable properties, they're older and they have very, very tight, small, choppy floor plans.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't really want to buy them sometimes.
Yeah, and to remodel and things like that. What about the rental market? Is as a result of this market, the rental market is a mess. Still.
What rental market?
There is not a rental market. I mean, the vacancy rate remains that seriously low, and I'm wondering what's happening there. People investing. You work with a lot of investors. Tell me about that, Alice.
I am noticing, now that you bring it up, that part of what the elders are doing is they're bundling in with their adult kids and their millennials, and they're buying multi-unit. They're buying duplexes, they're buying threeplexes, and they are displacing the renters that are there, and the renters have no place to go. So there's an interesting shift in a lot of our multifamily residents now they're not renters. They're homeowners.
They're buying the
They're right, and that's how grandma and grandpa are going to be cared for. I guess that's a form of
Okay.
aging in place.
It is a form of aging in place, but it's not. Absolutely.
What a great option though, because the price range is probably pretty amenable for both of the participants.
And the
that are
down
gonna be
payments,
there.
they qualify
Yeah.
for FHA
Right,
and conventional down payments.
That makes sense.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's interesting part. There's going to be 6 million people. 6 million people who have had bankruptcies in this country 7 years ago, wasn't that what that was?
Yeah.
Are coming off of that and are going to be out into the market looking for properties again.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
talked to
They're planning and looking. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. They're in the midst of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking.
They're out there and they're ready to go and buy. And that 7-year period is over.
Do they have like a firm date where they're clear?
I think most of them do.
Yeah.
They know what their date is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they do know the date.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
As of this date, I'm free.
Those are good buyers because you can't just walk in the door that day and say, well, let's go find a house. You need to be really on it day one when you hit the
Yeah.
market.
They tell you
yourself.
up front, this is what I'm looking, but I can't buy until this
Right,
date.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
know. They're
Yeah.
smart. They learned the hard way. They're really smart.
Alice has also been saying that millennials, people who are the buyers, that they really change in how they buy, right? They're looking. So for sellers, I mean, they know a lot about the house before they even go into it, right?
Yeah, the millennials are super, super educated. In fact, they know that a single story has a higher resale down the line. And many of the younger kids with great knees who, could do stairs won't buy them. And they want open floor plans, and they want the nicer appliances, and they want this, and they want that, because they had to wait so long. They are value shoppers. They saved up a lot more money. They worked harder. They might have had to pay off debt. Similar, I think, mindset as to the bankruptcy people that Stephanie was referring to. They're a lot more ready and they're a lot more on it, but they want what they want.
Do you all think that sellers who face situations where it's out, their house hasn't been updated, it needs a lot of work in them? Do you think the market is such that they should take some of those and do some of those repairs in them, or just leave it as it is and price it that way and go? What are you advising people today?
If you're going to put any money into it, it's going to be kitchen and bathrooms. But
Kitchen and bathrooms to you, yeah?
yeah. I think so.
Okay, so that's the opposite of what I've done. See, no, I did half of that. I'm not going to do my kitchen. I did my
If you were
bathrooms,
going
right?
to live in your home for a while, so those
that's
improvements,
true.
you got to
That's
enjoy
true.
those improvements, which is important.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're not naturally inclined that way, it's okay to just make a little concession in the price for, what
Yes.
that deferred maintenance is.
Mm-hmm.
Let them take it on, let their vision for what it needs to be come in and just put their own stamp on it, more or
Yeah.
less.
It's amazing how many homes are out there, that were built in they're 20 years old, 25 years old, that are still the same as they were when they were built. So now we're going to go sell those houses, and that's when we run into the type of thing. What condition are they in? If they're in great condition and they're working, you're going to get a darn good price. But if you haven't done anything to them, guess what?
Factor
You have an
that in.
inspection, right? And everything else that goes with it, and everything can go wrong. Hey, we're with Steph Jordan, Alice Lima, Joe here on The Real Estate Show. We're coming right back with more here on KMED. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com, and we're back to KMED after this. Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. August the 26th is our date. And Pete and Joe, the real estate guys, with you here. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com. We hope you go there. Some terrific shows last all summer long. Actually, it's been fun. It's been a wild summer. It's almost over, which is so strange about it. I mean, it's like Labor Day, Labor Day weekend, or the State Fair is ending next week. All those kind of things. Yeah. That means it's fall. And a little bit, if you notice, in the air in the morning, because we get up so early anymore, a little bit of twinge of coolness. A little bit of coolness in the air.
Different
Just
to
a
feel
little
that.
bit.
Those
Yeah, it has been.
65-degree overnights,
Yeah.
I think, are done.
Anyway, today here on The Real Estate Show, Alice Lehman and Steph Jordan, two real estate brokers with John L. Scott, have joined us here on a Market Watch show, kind of giving you the end of August report of what's going on in this market in Jackson and Josephine County that has been sterling, certainly a lot of activity, to say the least, the last few years. It has really come along, as you know. But we're at this point, and we're talking about changing markets, changing things going on. If you look, Alice, at Jackson County in terms of month supply of inventory, which is always an interesting indicator, if you've got something between $150,000 and $250,000, you've got three quarters of a month's supply. That's not very much, which then puts us into all sorts of interesting situations, Alice and Steph, doesn't it? Because you get multiple offers and this kind of thing. When you're in that situation, what's your advice to people about negotiating when you're when you find yourself like this?
Well, if you're pre-qualified in one of those tight price points, your agent and your family will sit down and have a strategy. And sometimes you're going to have to overbid. Sometimes you're going to have to pay your own closing costs. And some people end up taking the property as is. They still get to do their inspections, and they still get the right to terminate the transaction if they don't like the results of the inspections. But Mr. and Mrs. Seller on the other side love that if you're not going to hit them up for repairs or deferred maintenance or something like that.
So do you negotiate when you get to these multiple situations? You really find yourself, up in the air, don't you? What should you do? Right?
Yeah, and I think, it depends on how bad you want the house.
How bad? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell them you have to bring your best offer up front. There's not a lot of time to negotiate. So if you really enjoy the negotiation, you need to let that go and just bring your best up front, or you won't have a chance to negotiate. You won't be selected.
And is it just that price range, or is it more than above the $250 that you're seeing the multiple offers anymore?
Well, more above that price range.
Even above it,
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
Our property values have moved up there. That's pushed that number up a little bit, yeah.
Well, I wonder if it's going to stay there. I mean, and Alice noted, like in Ashland, for example, on the supply of inventory, it's really gone down. You know what's gone down the most? It's in the $1 million category.
Isn't that something? So a normal market for regular single-family homes is 6 months. It should take 6 months to sell your house. And we've been talking how it's been more like 22, 44 days. Well, in the $1 million range, it's a little bit more than that in their normal market. But we're down in Ashland, 3 months supply of $1 million homes.
So some of those sold.
Not only did some of them sell,
And
but
they
they're
sold.
continuing to sell. And if you go online, the agents can look and see sometimes what the financing was. There's a surprisingly high number of cash.
You think so?
Yeah.
In all ranges?
No,
or
no, no,
what?
in the
Okay,
million. In the million.
In the luxury
luxury
area.
market, and that also goes to the farmland that has the legal cannabis.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of cash deals there.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say the price category with the most available inventory is in that 750 to a million category. There's a lot of homes, isn't there?
Yeah.
In that particular price range. Yeah. All right.
There's a lot. They just don't move.
They don't move very because there's too many of them, and they need to come down below 750.
I
Right.
think that also reflects the buyer pool of those people that are if they're that close, a lot of those people can go to that next level and are in that ballpark as well. So interesting niche in our marketplace in that price range, and it's been pretty consistent through this market season.
Yeah. What else you got in there that you want to share with some of the changing market that we have for buyers and sellers?
Well, in the last 5 years, we have more than doubled the prices in some of our neighborhoods, Northwest Medford and West Medford. Northwest Medford has appreciated 139% in 5 years. That's more than double.
Northwest Medford. Okay.
Northwest
All right.
Medford.
Okay.
And
Yep.
West Medford's 144%.
West Medford. There's been a lot of sales in West Medford, hasn't there? I mean, it's there's a
Yeah.
lot of properties in there. Yeah.
Really good flip properties.
And multi-unit properties also in that particular part of town. What else stands out in there that
Gold Hill and Rogue River, 105% in 5 years.
yeah?
Wow.
That's a lot. I mean, but on the other hand, we were way down too at the end of that time frame. So we've,
Yeah, and I
we've
think
come
those
a long, we've
neighborhoods
come a
were
long way
hit.
back.
Yeah, they were hit hard.
Yeah, we've come a long way back. What else in the rural properties? Let's talk about those for just a second, if you would. I know Alice is really into that stuff. I don't know if you were too much into the cannabis world that we're
No.
in around here.
I'm not into cannabis. Definitely not.
Tell ya. You talk about something where you want to get into interesting debates with people is about that.
I'm going to watch Alice do the cannabis.
I mean, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the gold rush of it seems to have slowed down.
I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
think so too.
So, what's happening today in it?
Well, I'm seeing from the real estate side, I'm seeing prices kind of stabilize in the low 500s up to over $1 million, depending on what kind of water they have, how nice of the home. I'm noticing that a lot of the buyers are really more business oriented. They're business people. They're very organized. They have corporations.
LLCs, you bet.
They have LLCs. They're expanding from Colorado. They're expanding from Washington. I'm curious to see what happens in California because the prices are so high up there that even though it's legal, we'll have to see who actually enters that market down there.
I can't wait. The state of Oregon says that they have such a system in place here where cannabis is not leaving the state. And if anybody believes that, then they totally are crazy because that is just absolutely so untrue.
The state of Oregon also faces a $1.5 billion deficit. It's going to return $500,000 in $90 increments to its citizens. There's a lot to.
You're talking about the kicker law. Now, the kicker law is a good thing. It's okay. I mean, you know what it does? It keeps reins in government from over just taking in more money when the economy is good. People do deserve it back. It hasn't hurt the state when they've had to give that kicker back. I mean, so you're going to get a $90 rebate, or you don't even get the money. They just take it off your taxes.
We'll agree to disagree on that. There's a lot of better ways I would see us to run its business.
That's always true, and you never know. Well, I'm curious about what you think is going to go on next now. As we go into the fall season, this is time. You said July was. The statistics will be out for August actually pretty soon here, so we're going to find out pretty darn well how the summer has gone because May, June, and July were the 3 busiest months of the year so far.
Yep, and that's what it's supposed to be. But on some of the national business trackers, they're noticing that there was a little bit of a slump in July, which is highly unusual. We haven't really seen that happen in the housing world for years. For years.
Okay,
But we've had 2 pretty robust winter markets too.
Yes.
In the off seasons that were stronger than normal. So maybe there was there was just a natural blip there that was due.
Yeah, Steph, you work with a lot. You said first-time home buyers and things like that.
Yeah.
How are they getting loans? What kind of loans do you see they are getting these days to help themselves?
Conventional. They've prepared and they're ready. They have saved. They're smart. They they know exactly what they want.
But more conventional than FHA loans, things like that you're seeing for first timers.
Yeah, the last couple that I helped were conventional, and they were well prepared and had very substantial down payments saved, and yeah, they're very astute people.
And we also want to remind people that RVAR, Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, has their program, for first-time home buyers, and we've heard people getting $7,000 to $8,000 in those programs for closing costs and down payments. So don't ever think that that's something that you can't attain, because that program is out there, and we fund it. I mean, RVAR funds it. People donate to it, and so take advantage of that. So it is out there, and people do that. So that's a good thing for first-time home buyers.
We talked to Guy Giles, our lending guy, and we hear this a lot, that conventional loans are kind of at the forefront these days. And
more than FHA.
I've got to figure that FHA mortgage insurance that rides the length of the loan has really turned a lot of people off, and we have much more savvy buyers these days. They factor in those things over that course of that contract, and
it's killed it.
I would
it's killed it
too.
It has killed it. Absolutely, you're right. Anyway, the Real Estate Show, one more segment to go. We're with Alice Lehman, Steph Jordan. We're coming right back. The John L. Scott Market Watch continues right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. August 26th is our date. Pete and Joe, the real estate guys, in the house with you on KMED. Hey, Labor Day weekend's coming up next weekend. Wow, school starting, football season rolling around. Get rid of the smoke, and it's a perfect fall day in Southern Oregon, isn't it?
I'm getting ready for kindergarten in my house. I'm pretty excited about that.
It's a school time, isn't it? It's an interesting time of the year. I love
getting ready for kindergarten.
Love the fall. It's my fall's favorite time of the year anyway, but away we go. Anyway, Alice Lima and Steph Jordan from John L. Scott, both brokers, are here with us today. We're kind of giving you a feel of what the end of the summer real estate market is like, what's going on around Jackson, Josephine counties, and who's buying, who's selling, and what's going on.
Air to the market.
Lots of changes.
The summer.
My question with you as we go along here, buyers and sellers always comes tangle over closing costs sometimes. When it's a buyer's market, the seller is going to pay for them a lot of times. When it's not that, what do we do today? What are you advising people if you're the buyer or the seller regarding closing costs, Steph?
Well, I think you should be prepared to pay your own.
If you're buying.
If you're buying, we can always request it, and we should always ask for everything you want, but be prepared to pay for your own.
Because sellers just simply are not going to do
They're
it.
just, they have a net in mind, what they want, and they're not going to pay extra fees that don't apply to them. Yeah.
And also sometimes, they won't appraise. If you're buying a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and I know the down payment is steep, and you save up a long time for that, or you're getting it out of another asset, and then you've got $9,000, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 more of closing costs, and some of that is taxes. You've got $4,000 maybe prepayment of taxes for a year, and your insurance for a year, but then it won't appraise. So then what do you do? So if you can have that extra money in your pocket so that you can pay your own closing costs, I think the sellers are more comfortable taking your offer.
Okay. And does that go across all price ranges, the way you described that?
It's going up and up. Now, once you get over $500,000-$700,000, I think a lot of those people have assets and the wherewithal to pay their own closing costs. So I'm seeing it as under $500,000. It's really a fist fight.
Yeah, and if you're in a multiple offer situation, you've just taken $5,000-$6,000 off your net worth to the seller. Be ready for bad news, probably.
And the biggest part of those closing costs, or if you're getting a loan, is you're going to get a 2% loan fee. So if you're borrowing, $300,000-$400,000 or $400,000, $500,000, that's $10,000 just in closing costs right there. So that's a good advice for them. What about accelerator clauses? You hear that a lot. Different people use them, especially if you're in a multi-offer situation. So do you two ladies use accelerator clauses, and tell me how that's gone for you?
I do now. I've learned that
I do now.
Okay,
yeah.
Yes.
I do now.
And I wish I would have earlier. It's worked well for me.
Okay. An accelerator clause, Alex, explain how that works. What does that mean?
Well, what that means is you have you have your regular offer, and then you add an extra addendum that says, in the event of multiple offers, I promise that I will give you $500 more than the best offer, but you have to show me the other offer. So I know you're not making it up. And I will give you $500, $50, $1, $5,000,
Okay,
$1,000 something
But there's
over.
a cap. There's a cap.
But
so
it's
you
only
don't
up
go
to
crazy.
right. So we just did one on a property in Talent, and they were willing to go $20,000 over asking price, and they
Wow.
could because they were cash.
Wow.
And they ended up winning the bid but they didn't actually have to pay $20,000 over.
Right.
They said they would pay $5,000 over the highest bid, so they won. But they were willing to go $20,000 more. So how do you compete with that
Yeah.
if you're getting a mortgage with an appraisal?
Now, on the other hand of that, that sounds like if you're the solid buyer there, that's something good. Now, but they do not have to accept an accelerator clause in the deal.
The seller?
The seller.
No,
does
the
not have-
seller can do whatever they want.
I mean, even if it's presented to them, they can say no, right? So just FYI that,
Yeah.
they don't have to accept that. But if you're going to do an accelerator clause, Steph, is it right? You want it to go over substantially, I would think, to make that look better if you're going to do that, right?
Yeah, well, it shows the seller how dedicated you are. You really want
Yeah.
this property, and you're willing to,
Yeah.
to bring whatever you need to bring to it.
As far as your
helps.
buyer can go, and will go.
Yeah, definitely.
And some of the accelerator clauses have an additional section that says, in the event that I'm getting a mortgage and it does not appraise, I will pay the difference.
I'll pay the difference.
I will
Okay.
pay the
Yeah.
difference.
Wow.
And it's good we clarified that, because when Pete said accelerator clause, he's told me about riding around with Alice on tour. We're looking at different properties, so I thought we're going a different direction there.
Right,
He doesn't let me drive anymore. He doesn't like my driving.
Not surprised.
That's a different accelerator.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of properties out there still to be sold. We got a fall coming up. It's going to be busy. It's going to be. Lennox Scott says it's going to go on for a number of years. Certainly, the concern we have is the values rising into double digits, and that's our biggest concern I think we have going. And the inventory supply still, and the kind of the types of housing we need, the alternative housing that we still don't have, that so many people are so desperate for, from veterans housing, affordable housing, what those means, and all the things that we've heard about them. So I don't know. Realistically, though, okay, talking about realism now here in September, well, for buyers and sellers, what do they really need to think about now, right, at this point?
Well, I think that school starting is a huge deadline in our buying season. And so if you were trying to sell your house and you're not sold yet, you need to look at your price and you need to look at your condition. And if you're going to be listing, it's fine to list during the winter. We still have a
Yes.
backlog of buyers, regardless of whether we're softening or not. And you need to be realistic, because you don't want to be sitting there keeping your house clean, having people going through, not knowing what's going on, jumping every time the phone rings. Just try to be within a realistic amount of requesting listing price from what the neighbors are getting and the neighbors are selling for.
Yeah.
So sometimes that means listening to your agents and help some of their advice sometimes.
Yeah, so it's a fact that homes sell for 96% of your list price if it's correctly priced. So just to get realistic with that and believe that, just believe that. That's the fact.
Yeah.
It's a good seller's market. You're going to get a well-priced home. You're going to get your price. No need to be greedy about
Well,
it.
no one's
no
gonna-
need to hamstring yourself by trying to get too much out of the market, especially as we're seeing it naturally kind of level off after this incredible growth and rebound we've had.
Well, my favorite line is, sellers say, some Californian's going to come up here and going to pay my price, and you got to find that California. Well, people don't overpay. I don't think do.
Yeah,
they? I don't think
no,
people
cash
do.
buyers are smart buyers.
They're
They
smart
don't
buyers.
overpay.
They're not going to do
That's
that.
why
So-
they're cash buyers.
That's why they're
Right,
cash buyers.
cash.
And you can find Alice Lima at alicelima@johnlscott.com. You can contact her. Steph, also your same address.
Yes.
Steph Jordan, right?
Yes,
at johnlscott.com.
johnlscott.com.
It's an interesting time this fall. I'm looking forward to the next few months and see how it goes.
The changing times.
We'll see if it continues or what happens.
We've got buyers and they're going to this winter market, still looking and still hoping.
The demand is there because people still want to live in this beautiful place. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here on August 26th. Pete and Joe, Alice and Steph, thanks for joining us. Have a great week, everybody. God bless you all. We'll see you next Saturday here on KMED.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.